Can you believe that this piece has the same melody with this piece? Well, they do. I'm Eleftheriou and I'm going to show you how I transformed an atonal 20th century melody into a post-rock song. But first things first. This guy here is Arnold Schoenberg, a very famous composer making serial music in the 20th century. But what is serial music? After the classical and dramatic period of music, harmony was getting richer and richer, and composers were using harmonic tools that let their musical material move away from their initial key centers. The peak of this evolution was that we had so many chromatic movements that we were almost losing the sense of tonality. That led some composers to invent a different way of organizing the musical material, a way called series. And music based on those series is called serial music. In serial music, you actually have a series of all 12 notes of the chromatic scale, where each note is as important as the other. That's why we have no key centers, that's why we don't have any tonality, and that's why pieces back in the day were atonal. Now let's see an example of series by their master, Arnold Schoenberg. This is the chromatic scale, and Schoenberg put it in this order for his piece 3 Songs for Voice and Piano. A very traditional way to compose with a series is to actually strictly follow the succession of notes in it. So if you start with D, you have to go to E flat and so on. The voice in Schoenberg's piece does exactly that. You can actually play the series in reverse or invert the intervals of the series and play in reverse the inverted intervals. You can do crazy things, and composers later on evolved the whole idea of series. But we're going to stick to the very original and primal version of it because that's what I'll use for my piece. So I thought, can I use this atonal melody in a rock context? Well, that was challenging because rock music, almost in its entirety, is tonal. That means that I had to use an atonal melody in a tonal environment. So I harmonized it, because I love harmonizing things. But let me show you how I met the final result in 3 steps. Coming up with the chords was quite a thing, because the chords should resonate with the melody, but at the same time the chord progression should suit the rock style that I wanted. That means that I was deciding both for the chords and the structure at the same time. So while I was thinking about the harmony of this series of notes, I divided it into 4 sections. Each section had its own clear and suitable for the style harmony. So once I had the sections, I could decide how to connect them, either jumping in from one section to another or letting the last chord breathe and take its time so that the next section would come easier. Now that I had a larger picture of the piece, it was time to think about its form and its dynamics. In this post-rock style that I wanted to work on, there are strong contrasts in the dynamics and the expression of each section. In order to navigate myself throughout this dynamic curve, I drew a line that would show how soft or hard each section would be. And now I'm ready to orchestrate this. Post-rock music, that means guitars, bass, drums for sure, and I will add a piano and some ambient sounds from Spitfire Labs, which are great and free. By the way, I've uploaded on my Patreon page the sheet music and an in-depth analysis of the piece through my DAW, so if you're curious, jump in there, it's super cheap and it really helps me. Now let's listen how I treated this abnormal melody that Arnold Schoenberg once composed. I'm Eleftheriou, thank you very much for watching, consider subscribing on my channel and enjoy Dear Arnold.
you.